Part 65. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 658. It is also a coincidence that Faraway and Tom come together. Faraway wants to form a crew, but now he can't find it. Too suitable script to perform, finally decided to waive his strong eloquence and sense of humor, and talk more on the stage. Content-assisted performances such as jokes. Network. Tom is now a second-ring magician. Although he is still very fat, he is not an idiot. After he joined Faraway's crew, the two sparked inspiration in the collision and planned to have Tom's life experience. It was adapted to tell the various kinds of discrimination and sadness that an idiot obese boy had in the process of growing up, but the whole performance was performed in a comedy mode with a huge contrast. This is a non-advocacy performance of Fafa and Tom. The laughter and applause of the audience almost never stopped. Many people were teased and laughed. This is the only one in the competition. The drama of less than 10 acts, the performance of the 6 acts is not a color, and finally the two fat brothers came to a curtain call, and the applause of the audience came to another one. Faraway and Tom brought an excellent comedy to everyone, and everyone gave back their very high evaluation. The number of people who were obsessed with fat life quickly passed 1,500 people after the end of the game. The total score also passed 9 points. Trees and the Nightingale also watched this performance. They have to admit that this is a strong opponent, but each drama group has only one chance to perform on stage. They can only wait quietly for the audience. The final evaluation. The next step is also not so exciting. Many people have also had a heated discussion on the fat life and the performance of two fat brothers in the Violet Forum. When the number of people who have been evaluated is 2,500, the score for obese life is 8.7. It is a magical enlightenment. Trizer, we still have the opportunity. This comedy gives people the most shock and happiness in a short time, so their real-time score will be high, but from the perspective of drama and resonance, this play is still its weak. The vote will end tomorrow, so I think we have a chance to oppose it. The night show comforts the Trees, Tracy, and the Viscounts of Vincent. Our crew is starring in the night show. You are a professional actor, so I am very satisfied with this high score. This competition is heavily involved, and the final ranking is not so important. Trees' mentality is very good. The next few shows were also not very exciting, and soon arrived at today's 10th crew, and also the last performance, the Piley Holiday Drama Group led by Princess Lucia. For the Princess of the French Kingdom, most of the students of Violet still have a good impression. After all, this is a member of the Golden Lion family, the only daughter of His Majesty the King, a respectable 6-ring high-level magician. Even the Princess Lucia came to our Violet Academy from the Royal Academy of Magical Arts in France. Doesn't that mean that our Violet Academy is at least the Attel 6-character magic school that stands shoulder to shoulder with the Royal Academy of Magic? What's more, Princess Lucia is a big beauty above the standard. She is not arrogant and arrogant on weekdays. The students who have the honor to study or experiment with her are also highly rated, so when Princess Lucia comes on stage, I got a very warm welcome applause. Lucia's true character, this Piley Holiday tells that the only princess of the king is bound by the cumbersome court etiquette all day, like the birds in the cage, eager for freedom, and finally one day she took the negligent departure of the guards. The palace, playing freely in the parks and streets of Paris. However, the sky was going to be late and the princess was lost. At this moment, she met a polite gentleman who, after asking her identity, took her back to her place of residence. This gentleman is a reporter from the Paria newspaper, a young, handsome, talented, full of ideal but poor reporter Joe. When playing Joe's reporter ugly, Natalia immediately revealed a weird smile. It turned out that this Joe's actor is the Green Dragon girl Ilya with the nickname of Small Board. For a high-level magician of a change school, it is very easy to lengthen the height and make some adjustments to the appearance. Therefore, The reporter who appeared in front of everyone is a very handsome and even beautiful young man. It is in full compliance with the image of the dream lover in the hearts of many girls, and is in no way inferior to the ace of the drama club. The princess and the reporter played a romantic drama in a small space. They talked about the days, from songs to dramas, from horse racing to dance parties, from poetry to philosophy. They have too many common languages, cherish each other, happy, and the feelings are born between the two. How can Ziwei, who is sitting in the first row, not understand the mind of Princess Lucia? She played in this play, and the name of the actor did not change. The Princess Lucia passed the artistic processing of his short time with her, from a little bit of shackles to a non-advocating color. Love story. Star Joe is going to lose his job because he has never interviewed the big news, and the loss of His Royal Highness is the biggest news of the entire PLI. In order to help Joe, Princess Lucia did not hesitate to reveal her identity and helped Joe complete an interview with a character. Joe used the camera to take the most beautiful gesture for her in the darkroom. Eventually, this interview was successfully posted on the front page of the second day of the Parley newspaper, and Princess Lucia came to the court in the home of the star. Guardian. A touching love that lasted for 2 days and 2 nights ended, short and sweet, with a touch of sadness and helplessness. The identity gap between the princess and the star is too great, so big that it is impossible for the two to have a future degree. This chapter has not been written yet, is struggling to write a book, followed by a repeating chapter, waiting for the remind single chapter to disappear after the disappearance. Sorry. It is also a coincidence that Fawaway and Tom come together. Fawaway wants to form a crew, but now he can't find a suitable script to perform. He finally decided to waive his strong eloquence and sense of humor. He said more jokes on the stage. Content such as auxiliary performances. Tom is now a second-ring magician. Although he is still very fat, he is not an idiot. After he joined Fawaway's crew, the two sparked inspiration in the collision and planned to have Tom's life experience. It was adapted to tell the various kinds of discrimination and sadness that an idiot obese boy had in the process of growing up, but the whole performance was performed in a comedy mode with a huge contrast. This is a non-advocacy performance of Fafa and Tom. The laughter and applause of the audience almost never stopped. Many people were teased and laughed. This is the only one in the competition. The drama of less than 10 acts, the performance of the 6 acts is not a color, and finally the two fat brothers came to a curtain call, and the applause of the audience came to another one. Fawaway and Tom brought an excellent comedy to everyone, and everyone gave back their very high evaluation. The number of people who were obsessed with Fat Life quickly passed 1,500 people after the end of the game. The total score also passed 9 points. Trees and the Nightingale also watched this performance. They have to admit that this is a strong opponent, but each drama group has only one chance to perform on stage. They can only wait quietly for the audience. The final evaluation. The next step is also not so exciting. Many people have also had a heated discussion on the Fat Life and the performance of two fat brothers in the Violet Forum. When the number of people who have been evaluated is 2,500, the score for Obese Life is 8.7. It is a magical enlightenment. Trizer, we still have the opportunity. This comedy gives people the most shock and happiness in a short time, so their real-time score will be high, but from the perspective of drama and resonance, this play is still its weak. The vote will end tomorrow, so I think we have a chance to oppose it. The night show comforts the Trees, Tracy, and the Viscounts of Vincent. Our crew is starring in the night show. You are a professional actor, so I am very satisfied with this high score. This competition is heavily involved, and the final ranking is not so important. Trees' mentality is very good. The next few shows were also not very exciting, and soon arrived at today's 10th crew, and also the last performance, the Lee Holiday Drama Group led by Princess Lucia. For the Princess of the French Kingdom, most of the students of Violet still have a good impression. After all, this is a member of the Golden Lion family, the only daughter of His Majesty the King, a respectable 6-ring high-level magician. Even the Princess Lucia came to our Violet Academy from the Royal Academy of Magical Arts in France. Doesn't that mean that our Violet Academy is at least the Attel's 6-character magic school that stands shoulder to shoulder with the Royal Academy of Magic? What's more, Princess Lucia is a big beauty above the standard. She is not arrogant and arrogant on weekdays. The students who have the honor to study or experiment with her are also highly rated, so when Princess Lucia comes on stage, I got a very warm welcome applause. Lucia's true character, this Pi holiday tells that the only princess of the king is bound by the cumbersome court etiquette all day, like the birds in the cage, eager for freedom, and finally one day she took the negligent departure of the guards. The palace, playing freely in the parks and streets of Paris. However, the sky was going to be late and the princess was lost. At this moment, she met a polite gentleman who, after asking her identity, took her back to her place of residence. This gentleman is a reporter from the Paris newspaper, a young, handsome, talented, full of ideal but poor reporter Joe. When playing Joe's reporter ugly, Natalia immediately revealed a weird smile. It turned out that this Joe's actor is the Green Dragon girl Ilya with the nickname of Small Board. For a high-level magician of a change school, it is a coincidence that the heights of the high-level magicians are extended. It is a coincidence that Fafa and Tom are together. Faaway wants to form a crew, but now he can't find a suitable script to perform. With his strong eloquence and sense of humor, he talked about content-assisted performances like jokes on the stage. Tom is now a second-ring magician. Although he is still very fat, he is not an idiot. After he joined Faaway's crew, the two sparked inspiration in the collision and planned to have Tom's life experience. It was adapted to tell the various kinds of discrimination and sadness that an idiot obese boy had in the process of growing up, but the whole performance was performed in a comedy mode with a huge contrast. This is a non-advocacy performance of Fafa and Tom. The laughter and applause of the audience almost never stopped. Many people were teased and laughed. This is the only one in the competition. The drama of less than 10 acts, the performance of the 6 acts is not a color, and finally the two fat brothers came to a curtain call, and the applause of the audience came to another one. Faaway and Tom brought an excellent comedy to everyone, and everyone gave back their very high evaluation. The number of people who were obsessed with Fat Life quickly passed 1,500 people after the end of the game. The total score also passed 9 points. Trees and the Nightingale also watched this performance. They have to admit that this is a strong opponent, but each drama group has only one chance to perform on stage. They can only wait quietly for the audience. The final evaluation. The next step is not so exciting. Many people are still having a heated discussion on the Fat Life and the performance of two fat brothers in the Violet Forum. When the number of people has passed 2,500, the fat man's life with a score of 8.7, it is a magical enlightenment. Trizer, we still have the opportunity. This comedy gives people the most shock and happiness in a short time, so their real-time score will be high, but from the perspective of drama and resonance, this play is still its weak. The vote will end tomorrow, so I think we have a chance to oppose it. The night show comforts the Trees, Tracy, and the Viscounts of Vincent. Our crew is starring in the night show. You are a professional actor, so I am very satisfied with this high score. This competition is heavily involved, and the final ranking is not so important. Trees' mentality is very good. The next few shows were also not very exciting, and soon arrived at today's 10th crew, and also the last performance, the Pi holiday drama group led by Princess Lucia. For the Princess of the French Kingdom, most of the students of Violet still have a good impression. After all, this is a member of the Golden Lion family, the only daughter of His Majesty the King, a respectable 6-ring high-level magician. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 659. Although I have seen dozens of royal aristocratic castles on the road, they are not comparable to this violet fort, Johnny continued to admire along the way. Is there a distinguished visitor? Natalia, dressed in a white evening gown, like a blooming lily, greeted her and saw her eyes as she walked alongside Sci-fi's shoulders. In a flash, the bright smile burst out instantly. I think you must be the famous Duke of Rose, Miss Sophie Mathilde. Sophie rarely sees a woman who can be on her side but is not turned into a background board by her own genius. The heroic girl in front of her is one, her appearance and body are perfect, and the temperament is also the same. Outstanding, this made Sophie feel good soon, politely nodded and replied, "It's nice to meet you." Natalia came home and came to Sophie's right hand. "I am the fiancé of Sci-fi, and I can do it for Natalia. Sci-fi has always been full of praise for you. I want to see you very early." The two soon exchanged cordially. It looked like a good friend for many years. Sci-fi introduced a group of people to the reception room, and the two night elf maids served sweet black tea. After some chattering, Sci-fi quickly turned the topic into the topic, which is also the part of his most relevant relationship. "I don't know how the music owner's eastbound experience and gains. Johnny's current identity should be at the core level of the Bard system. Yelena is a loyal follower of the music master, so there is no outsider in this small meeting room. There is nothing to worry about when asked. Hopefully, there are very few gains." Sophie did not hide anything. She and Sci-fi became close friends when they met for the first time. There is almost nothing to say. The elf's faith is attributed to Msnu, human. The faith is attributed to the Lord of Glory, and the once immortal Orc Empire, except for the shamans who believe in various natural phenomena and the souls of the ancestors, does not have true gods to rule their beliefs, so this is also the Orc for thousands of years. It can only be trapped on the prairie. This eastbound, what I want to do most is to develop believers and church organizations in the Orc tribe. Isn't it popular there? Sci-fi asked. No, it wasn't like this at first. The cats and foxes in the Orc tribes all like music. I just got their invitation and I chose to go to the Hullen Prairie to expand my faith. I used it with my music association's companions. The music conquered many orcs and eventually got into the Orc Wangting, the opportunity to perform for the contemporary beast master. Sophie's white jade hands clasped the cup in his hand, but when I entered the court, I smelled the abyss sulfur. Breath. Although I am not a professional in combat, but at this level, I still have enough insight into most of the world's disguise. I saw with my own eyes that the Beastmaster's body is flowing with the blood of the devil, and the orc nobles in the royal court account. There are a few of them who are disguised as demons. Sophie's voice began to become a little nervous. The devil of the endless abyss can be said to be the most primitive and evil existence of the entire Orient world. They even killed I have been a few gods and have conquered many large and even superstars. The whole orc tribe has fallen into the devil's claws. I can only hide my identity and pretend that I don't know what I have done. Refused to the Beastmaster's solicitation, the emperor led the orchestra to withdraw from the Hullen Prairie. The famous Sophie Mathilde, the Duke of Roses, the singer of the gods, she is the secret of the demigod music. Even in the entire French kingdom, only a small number of high-level know, and in this tour, she has not exposed this identity, and it is this caution that has allowed her to escape the biggest crisis. Johnny and Yelena were also the first to learn this from Sophie's mouth. They only know why the Lord of Music will choose to give up the previous goal in a situation of great situation. The Emperor left the Orc tribe. Just thinking, when I think about the consequences of falling into the hands of the devil, it is really cold in my heart, and I am afraid of it. Not only that, in returning from the Hullen Prairie to the mainland of the Orient, all the way west, I saw the devil's breath everywhere in the principality and the city-state. The news of killings is happening from time to time. I think the moment of the end of the contract. Sophie did not think that the dark turmoil will come so fast. Many of her arrangements and preparations will take a long time to take effect, for the integration of music associations around Orient, For the barred professional system perfect, it takes time, but the most lacking is time. As the master of music, Sophie chose to become Sophie Mathilde, growing up from an infant, and she was the perfect blend of human beings, but the corresponding layout time was compressed too much, from her true adulthood. And took over the title of the Duke of Rose to the present, but only 7 years. The news brought by Sophie is undoubtedly confirmed by the major forces that Ziwei met in the Dark Council on the planning of the plot of Orient. I did not expect that the abyss of the abyss will not begin after the turbulent era. It has long been a far-reaching layout and has already controlled the Orc Wangting. The principality and the city-states in the southeast of Orient are the fats that are given to the small forces from all planes. The appearance of these and killings proves that they have ignored the existence of the glorious Lord and started to enter. If I didn't guess wrong, the moment when the contract ends, it's close at hand. 11 Wei said, I am afraid I may not be able to wait until the sacred calendar 1788. To know that it is now the sacred calendar on the night of December 23, 1787, 2 days from the birth of the sun, and only 8 days from the new year. Even Sophie was awe-inspiring. She sat up straight and said with some pessimism, music is a factor that everyone appreciates and pursues. However, when war comes, countless once noble nobles will fall into the mud and even welcome to death. I am afraid that only when this dark and turbulent end is over, my church and I can see the light again. Miss Sophie, you are too pessimistic, Natalia took Sophie's hand and said with a look of disappointment, who said that music did not work in the war years? Ziwei wrote an army song for the Arcane Corps. It sounds very inspiring, and the composers of the Music Association and you, as long as you no longer focus only on the nobles of the upper class, but compose sincere music for the soldiers and the people, will inevitably be countless people sing and become an eternal classic. After Natalia finished the passage, the entire meeting room was silent, and the eyes of the other 4 people fell on her body, which surprised her. Why, I am not correct. Ziwei looked at Natalia with appreciation and gratitude. She really grew a lot. In fact, like what she thought, music is the eternal appreciation and pursuit of human beings. Even in the war years, music is very promising. After listening to Natalia, Sophie's eyes sparkled, and she clenched Natalia's hand subconsciously. Thank you so much, Miss Natalia, you wake me up. Although Ziwei I once advised me to focus on the promotion of popular songs in order to expand my faith more effectively, but in the process of promoting my faith, I still habitually put more work and energy on the upper aristocrats in various regions. Pull it up. After finishing this passage, Sophie turned to Ziwei again and looked at him with a look, I don't know if I can appreciate your masterpiece, the military song. Ziwei smiled helplessly. In his opinion, Sophie, the master of music, is not really a staunch fighter and qualified leader. Compared with the younger lady of the morning, Ulixia, they are also half god, the same as women, but Olympia is far better than the music master Sophie, whether it is the overall situation, the will or the wrist. Sophie is more obsessed with the music itself. This is what she once saw when she heard that Ziwei had a new piece of music and looked forward to it as a fan. Writing, not finished yet, first send, change later, it takes about an hour, then refresh. What is most lacking now is time. As the master of music, Sophie chose to become Sophie Mathilde, growing up from an infant, and she was the perfect blend of human beings, but the corresponding layout time was compressed too much, from her true adulthood. And took over the title of the Duke of Rose to the present, but only 7 years. The news brought by Sophie is undoubtedly confirmed by the major forces that Ziwei met in the Dark Council on the planning of the plot of Orient. I did not expect that the abyss of the abyss will not begin after the turbulent era. It has long been a far-reaching layout and has already controlled the Orc Wangting. The principality and the city-states in the southeast of Orient are the fats that are given to the small forces from all planes. The appearance of these and killings proves that they have ignored the existence of the glorious Lord and started to enter. If I didn't guess wrong, the moment when the contract ends, it's close at hand. 11 Wei said, I am afraid I may not be able to wait until the sacred calendar 1788. To know that it is now the sacred calendar on the night of December 23, 1787, 2 days from the birth of the sun, and only 8 days from the new year. Even Sophie was awe-inspiring. She sat up straight and said with some pessimism, music is a factor that everyone appreciates and pursues. However, when war comes, countless once noble nobles will fall into the mud and even welcome to death. I am afraid that only when this dark and turbulent end is over, my church and I can see the light again. Miss Sophie, you are too pessimistic, Natalia took Sophie's hand and said with a look of disappointment, who said that music did not work in the war years? Zai Wei wrote an army song for the Arcane Corps. It sounds very inspiring, and the composers of the Music Association and you, as long as you no longer focus only on the nobles of the upper class, but compose sincere music for the soldiers and the people, will inevitably be countless people sing and become an eternal classic. After Natalia finished the passage, the entire meeting room was silent, and the eyes of the other 4 people fell on her body, which surprised her. Why, I am not correct. Zai Wei looked at Natalia with appreciation and gratitude. She really grew a lot. In fact, like what she thought, music is the eternal appreciation and pursuit of human beings. Even in the war years, music is very promising. After listening to Natalia, Sophie's eyes sparkled, and she clenched Natalia's hand subconsciously. Thank you so much, Miss Natalia, you wake me up. Although Zai Wei once advised me to focus on the promotion of popular songs in order to expand my beliefs more effectively, but in the process of belief promotion I still habitually put more work and energy on the right. The upper aristocrats of all regions are drawn together. After finishing this passage, Sophie turned to Zai Wei again and looked at him with a look, I don't know if I can appreciate your masterpiece, the military song. Zai Wei smiled helplessly. In his opinion, Sufi, the master of music, is not really a staunch fighter and qualified leader. Compared with the younger lady of the morning, Ulixia, they are also half god, the same as women, but Olympia is far better than the music master Sufi, whether it is the overall situation, the will or the wrist. Sufi is more obsessed with the music itself. This is what she once saw when she heard that Zai Wei had a new piece of music and looked forward to it as a fan. After listening to Natalia, Sophie's eyes sparkled, and she clenched Natalia's hand subconsciously. Thank you so much, Miss Natalia, you wake me up. Although Zai Wei once advised me to focus on the promotion of popular songs in order to expand my faith more effectively, but in the process of promoting my faith, I still habitually put more work and energy on the upper aristocrats in various regions. Pull it up. After finishing this passage, Sophie turned to Zai Wei again and looked at him with a look, I don't know if I can appreciate your masterpiece, the military song. Zai Wei smiled helplessly. In his opinion, Sufi, the master of music, is not really a staunch fighter and qualified leader. Compared with the younger lady of the morning, Ulixia, they are also half god, the same as women, but Olympia is far better than the music master Sufi, whether it is the overall situation, the will or the wrist. Sufi is more obsessed with the music itself. This is what she once saw when she heard that Zai Wei had a new piece of music and looked forward to it as a fan. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 660. Sophie finally chose a room on the second floor to the sea. Natalia finally left the room with reluctance. Sophie looked at the closed door and sighed and stood in front of the spacious window, staring at the silent night in front of me. Just then, suddenly a knock on the door. Sophie hugged his arms. Please come in. It was Zai Wei who knocked at the door. His face looked with concern. I smelled the smell of in your body. You and the abyss demon fight. In the conversation just now, it is clear that Sufi concealed a lot of more terrible truths. She, who is interested in becoming a goddess of music, can never be easily scared by the existence of demons. Sure enough, Sophie turned and gently slid the robes on her back. On both sides of her smooth, snowy jade-like vertebrae, there was a deep purple demon imprint with powerful power. There is a dark green flame that seems to be burning all the time. Zai Wei went forward and opened the real magic eye. In this deep purple demon mark, Zai Wei felt a powerful force, but strange but had a familiar feeling. Suddenly, there seemed to be in his mind. A flash of lightning flashed, the supporters behind the towering Master Gatlin's longevity experiment, the smart fearless in the endless abyss of the seven devils. This smart should be the role of a think tank in the demon monarch. He has been active in the multidimensional plane including the main material plane for a long time. It can be said that the Church of the Glorious Lord has long been the enemy that has been hit hard but has lived very moist. Falraz appeared in the Orc King court. How did you conflict with him? This deep purple devil's brand was firmly attached to Sophie's body, although she was limited by her own power. There was no spread in the narrow range, but she was unable to drive the demon seal away from her body. When I just stepped into the Orc Wangting of the Hulun Prairie, there was a feeling of being despised by malicious people, but I could not find the position of the enemy. After I just evacuated from the Orc Wangting, the devil demon discovered it. I made a decisive shot and tried to capture me. Sophie took a deep breath and was afraid to say, the wise Falraz has captured and conquered a lot of powerful existence for thousands of years and will it turned into a mysterious demon, and obviously this time he stared at me. Sophie took out a piano from her storage space. This is a beautiful and full of artistic piano. It is also a powerful companion to Sophie for the longest time and the most suitable for her strength. Magic creation. However, now half of the piano is baked by the horrible green flame, and the golden strings become very dim, as weak as Sophie himself. Zai Wei can imagine that one of the seven devils of the abyss, the most powerful figure in the whole of the Orient world, shot, and Sophie had to use his most precious treasures and weapons to resist the magic power of the devil, which is why Sophie, who just saw it, was so fragile and lost confidence. This demon mark has always existed, how will it affect you? Zai Wei frowned. I don't know, Sophie said with a wry smile, I don't know what will happen in the future. I don't know much about the abyss demons. The Lord of the Morning, Ulysses, is the saint of the Church of the Glorious Lord. She has been fighting against the abyss for a long time. She should be able to help you to lift this crisis. 11 Wei gently patted Sophie's shoulder and encouraged, you not alone, you still have me, there are many friends. Thank you for your help, Zai Wei, I am grateful. Sophie once again approved the robes. Let's relax, I will find a way to help you lift the crisis. I am looking forward to your performance tomorrow. Zai Wei showed a gentle smile, it's not early, stop early, goodbye. In the expectation of almost all the violets, the sacred calendar came on December 24, 1897, the day before the birthday of the sun. At this time last year, Violet College has been on holiday, but this year Zai Wei changed the holiday time, because the turbulent time will soon come. If the students of Violet are scattered back to their homes, a large part of them will probably I can't return to Violet Island anymore. So in a sense, this Violet drama competition is also a New Year gift for all students. So many students have no interest in learning, whether in apartments, dormitories, or classrooms, everywhere, the lights are filled with a festive atmosphere. The vessel with the flag of the Duke of Rose is docked at the port of Nanhai Town. The arrival of the famous Duke of Roses and her tour of the Orient Continental Touring Orchestra has detonated everyone's excitement to the extreme, many in the square. There are many people singing and dancing, and many people watched the fun around the hotel where the orchestra lived in the early morning. In this joyful atmosphere, the second day of the Violet drama competition officially began. Today there are still 6 performances left. The Grand Theatre is once again filled with audiences. In the expectation of countless people, the first game, the main event, was staged, and the drama Silver Moon Redemption from the Night Elf tribe. There was a long talk between Ziwei and Luna Priest Black Shanwei, which finally decided that the Night Elf tribe was about to reveal the secret of its existence. The Silver Moon Redemption of this Violet drama contest is about how this dark elf has gone through thousands of lives. After a lifetime of suffering, he left the dark area and returned to the ground. He finally got the redemption of Ms. Yinyu and became the story of a new night elf. Of course, this drama has a great difference with the truth of the facts. At the request of Ziwei, his plays completely disappeared in the whole story and became the credit of Black Shanwei, Morris, and others, and this time they also personally starring. It can be said that almost the entire Night Elf tribe intends to use this play to announce the existence of the world to the world. This will be a brand new elf race, will also be a beacon standing on the surface, attracting all the dark areas. The dark elves who are oppressed and enslaved are trusted. The 10 scenes of the whole play can be said to be an epic poem. When the final night elves ushered in the redemption of the moon, and the skin turned from dark to purple, the thunderous applause sounded for the audience and they sought freedom. Hope and dream, effort and apprehension, all the way to applaud. Through this play, the existence of the night elves and the origin of this elf tribe have a reasonable explanation. The students of Violet also did not hesitate to vote in their hands, giving the Silver Moon Redemption a very high evaluation. The score directly exceeded yesterday was the first Pi Li holiday, went straight to 9.5 points. A very exciting performance. President Ziwei, on the VIP table, with a huge sun hat, Sufi in a lady's dress filled with a warm smile, she sat in the middle of Ziwei and Natalia. It seems to completely get rid of the shadow of the devil and restore the original vitality. In fact, Natalia and I also rehearsed a play, and I was finally transformed into a new form of artistic performance with magic. I called it a phantom, 11 Wei said in Sufi's ear and whispered, when the contest is over, it will be staged and I look forward to your evaluation. Ziwei has added all the stunts to the World of Love, and eventually became the film of the Orient mainland version, but the stunts used belong to the use of light and shadow energy and the change of color, and have nothing to do with electricity, so new the artistic expression was named as the Phantom by 11 Wei. The finished product of this play has only been seen by Ziwei and Zero. It is still completely secret to others. Although Natalia has tried to sneak a few times, she was rejected by Ziwei. The next 4 plays were staged one by one. Although the starring performers were inexperienced and not perfect, but the attitudes were very serious and they did their best to present wonderful performances for everyone. Therefore, they all received warm applause, but everyone was very rewarded. Objective and fair, the scores of these 4 plays are also around 8 points, not too high or low. Finally, the 16th and the last play, The Crew from Jude and Esmeralda, How the Finale Magician is Made. Despite the reasonable adaptation and compression of the plot, the play still has a full 18 scenes. During this time, Jude, Esmeralda, and the participating members paid a great deal of time and experience. I am striving to make this show perfect. They have paid everything, and finally reached the moment when they finally showed it to everyone. In the background, more than a dozen starring roles and supporting roles became a big circle. Their hands were tied together and shouted in unison, "Come on!" In the expectation of many people, How the Magician is officially opened. It can be said that the vast majority of the Violet people gave birth to the interest in magic after watching the book of the President of the Westway, and finally came to the island of Violet. The story in this book, The Adventure of Juvenile Far. They are an unforgettable memory and a deep emotional sustenance. Therefore, Jude's topic cannot be described as inaccurate, but this is also a double-edged sword. If the story in the book cannot be presented brilliantly, I am afraid that the score of this drama will be as low as a very ugly point. Standing with a short red hair and wearing a whitewashed green robe, Jude appeared in the small magic measuring room, biting his teeth and looking at the test magic wand in front of him. Standard magic, 3 copies. Far, Standard Magic, 3. Level, Low-level Magic Apprentice, the middle-aged man with the supporting role said indifferently. Jude's hands clenched into fists and looked expressionless, just as the living juvenile Far came down from the book and appeared in front of everyone. Almost just debut, the whole story begins with a feeling of substitution. The wonderful performances of Jude are so many people cheering, the applause has come to the biggest from the very beginning, almost the roof of the entire theater is smashed. Stand up. Jude suppressed the inner excitement. He and the team's friends perfectly interpreted the essence of dozens of rehearsals, and staged the most dramatic conflicting plots of the whole book, like wearing a clue. The pearls have been brought to the audience, and the audience has brought a wonderful ring of waves. When Esmeralda, who played Princess Nicole, appeared, the cheers of the audience climbed to new heights again. Obviously, the high popularity and perfect appearance of the president shocked too many people, and the entire theater was in a frenzy. Ocean. In the end, Jude's actor Far and the female number 2 Jessica played the final battle in the Thousand Towers. Far defeated Jessica neatly and never looked back at the former fiancé, and a woman who brought her shame, accompanied by Princess Nicole, happily left the stage. How did the magician of the 16th scene finally come to an end, and the Violet drama competition came to an end? The applause of the audience lasted for a long time, and the curtains of Jude and others were still the same, but Mrs. Winchell had to step onto the stage and wave to calm everyone down. I am very happy. I never thought of these 2 days everyone's performance will be such a wonderful, the audience will be such a passion. Mrs. Winchell's eyes left in excitement tears. The game is over, everyone can score for each drama, and the final score will be locked after 24 magic hours. The title of this drama contest will be released. One vote in your hand will determine this. All the rankings of the competition, so please be cautious. Mrs. Winchell paused a little. The first Violet drama competition is over, but our entertainment festival is far from the end. There is the greatest orchestra of the continent of Orient, led by the Duke of Roses. The Rose Orchestra performs for us. At the moment when the magician was just finished, more than 1,000 people voted for themselves on the Violet Forum. After Jude and others returned to the background, Jude just glanced at him and waved his fist happily. He shouted excitedly, "Ha ha, tell everyone a good news, now our score is 9.8 points, if nothing unexpected, we won." Everyone in the crew showed a gratifying smile. They paid too much sweat during the half month and finally got the highest reward. The game is over. Why are the cheers and applause outside so strong? Fernandez asked inexplicably. Listen, it was the performance of the Duke of Roses and her Rose Orchestra. We are going to the auditorium. I heard that the Duke of Rose is the first singer of the Orient continent and the first beauty. Jude quickly greeted everyone. Go to the audience. Even Esmeralda is behind Jude, full of curiosity about the Duke of Roses, and she wants to see what the Duke of Rose, known as the first beauty of Orient, is. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 661. However, it is a pity that the first to appear is not the celebrity of the Rose Duke, but Johnny, who has traveled more than half of the Orient University since he appeared at the Midsummer Night Music Festival 6 months ago. 6. From Pili all the way east through the Belgian Principality, the Rhine Union, southward to the Holy Norman Empire, the Kingdom of Italy, the Principality of the Southeastern Europe and the city-state, into the Kingstown, and finally to the Hulun Prairie. There have been 50 major performances in the show, and the audience has passed tens of thousands. Now he is arrogantly carrying the style of a superstar, wearing a dark gold long trench coat with a wind, holding a bronze guitar in his hand, and the melody is ringing. It's the first song that Ziwei gave him. You won't be alone. It's very appropriate to use the flow of water to describe Johnny's performance. It combines the sincere feelings into the mature voice. Every move has a strong charm, which instantly attracts the attention of all the audience in the entire theater. Force. When the show ended, the applause sounded again. This time it was no longer an applause of encouragement, but a real love. Johnny played 3 songs, and he was the most skilled. Later, Elena also performed Carmen and My Name is Julian, which attracted no applause from Johnny. The two men, as the popular songs of Sophie, have already polished their talents and abilities. At this moment, the lights in the Grand Theatre darkened. After a short whisper, the audience seemed to realize what they were, and they all quieted down, waiting for the upcoming Duke of Rose. Suddenly there was a bright moon in the sky. The bright moonlight floated on everyone's body like a gauze, as if washing the body and mind of everyone. In the darkness, the light and warm music rang. It is the moonlight of the palace music that is carried by myself to the world of Orient. 11 Wei sat up straight and began to enjoy listening to this legendary movement played by the music master himself. The pale gold notes began to float in the Grand Theatre with the movements, such as songs, like illusions, confusing music, and perfection, far more than Zai Wei's own performance. This is the real music enjoyment. Even the performances brought by the musician-pianist star Sky Singer in the world can't compete with the performance of the music master. She masters the music. This is full of artistic power. From the hustle and bustle to the moon to the farewell, the 3 major movements complement each other, the real Scorpio, the perfect music. At the end of the song, the audience was silent. I don't know who took the lead, and the applause in the entire Violet Grand Theatre reached its highest peak ever. The lights lit up, and Sophie, who was in the middle of the stage, stood beside the key piano. She was still wearing a feather-like performance uniform, and she completely swayed her personal charm. This is the ultimate temptation. It is the true goddess. Some styles. Almost at the moment of seeing her, both men and women fell in an instant, and they enthusiastically greeted the Lord of the Rose, known as the first beauty of Alud, for her and her wonderful music. Sophie smiled and waved to everyone. The harpsichord disappeared from the center of the stage, and Sophie began the singing of the second song, which is My Heart Forever. So everyone enjoyed the baptism of music again. It is an unforgettable experience for life. Just to make everyone regret that the performance of the Duke of Rose ended like this, the red sun fell to the sea level, and the Christmas Eve of the Holy Calendar of 1787 came. The Violet, who thought that all the activities were over, suddenly a large and flat grey curtain slowly rose from the stage and finally fixed. Mrs. Winschell reappeared. Her face was filled with a warm smile. Students, this Violet drama competition, I also invited some of the most wanted people to see theatrical performances, and they will soon debut. Can you guess who? Professor Christine. Charlotte Mentor. Melil Mentor. Some people spoke up sporadically, but they eventually merged into a real torrent. Zai Wei Principal. President Zai Wei. President Zai Wei. You are really popular, Sophie, who had just returned to his seat and returned to the seat, said to Zai Wei whispered. I made this movie into a phantom. This will be an epoch-making new way of entertainment. Please Miss Sophie to appreciate. Zai Wei sighed over and responded. Seeing that everyone's expectation has been mobilized, Mrs. Winschell said with satisfaction, next, please enjoy Mr. Zai Wei, Miss Natalia, Miss Charlotte, Christine. Miss starring Yang, Meryl and others participated in the new drama expression Phantom of Love. Every time Mrs. Winschell gave out a starring name, the cheers and applause of the entire theater became very noisy, and it has become a sea of joy. The lights dimmed again, and Mrs. Winschell walked off the stage and returned to her position. Even at the moment before the release, only the West Victoria has seen this phantom in the entire theater. Therefore, everyone is full of curiosity, especially in Natalia, Charlotte, etc., who are in love with the world. Sitting on the stage and seeing their own performances is really a fun experience. The grey curtain has turned into pure black, and there are 4 golden characters full of 3-dimensional and metallic feelings. Then the golden characters are scattered and the whole curtain is dyed in gold. The next moment, the entire theater was exclaimed. Many people even stood up directly. They saw a shocking scene. A blue planet continued to rotate in the vast sky, the sun and the silver moon above the sky. So striking, is this the geography of the Orient world? Although as early as the fourth issue of the PIRIRI Daily, the western landscape of the Orient world was publicized and explained, but it was a flat picture, but now it is in front of everyone is a three-dimensional, full of realism. The angle of view is constantly getting closer, and a baritone full of magnetics is also ringing. Ulant is the main material world of the multi-dimensional plane. 2000 years ago, humans replaced the elves and orcs and became the Orient. The overlord of Six, and the most powerful empire of mankind now is the Holy Norman Empire created by His Majesty Albrecht I. The perspective changed from the starry sky to the sky. On the map of the Orient Six, the blue territory of the Holy Norman Empire gradually expanded, and until the merger with the Kingdom of Spania, it finally became the largest in the whole of the Orient world. Empire. Among the students of Violet, apart from the majority of the French people, there are many people in the Holy Norman Empire. They are full of pride in their hearts. This is their motherland. The perspective was eventually narrowed to Vienna, the emperor of the Holy Norman Empire, and narrowed to St. George's Palace. George is the name of Albrecht I. This magnificent palace built by him and named after him is also the palace of this great empire, the most powerful place. At this point, everyone was shocked by the Phantom of the Opera in front of it, because the scene is so real, as if it were immersive, overlooking the Imperial Vienna and St. George's Palace from the sky. You must know that the magical control in Vienna is even stricter than anywhere. From the sky, overlooking the palace is something you don't want to think about. Christine is the daughter of the Philip Grand Duke of the Imperial Spania region. Others can only imagine the St. George's Palace. She has been in and out many times. To her surprise, the St. George's Palace and the scenery she has seen in the Phantom are still slightly different. The window grills, decorations, carpets and furniture are the same as the styles recorded in the literature 200 years ago. They are almost perfect. Then, the heroine of the world's love, the future of Alfred V, the Princess Ronald, who has not yet enthroned, debuted. She stood on the upper floor of St. George's Palace, wearing a noble and holy white princess dress, and behind her few beautiful maids holding a long skirt for her. She overlooked the imperial capital Vienna from the St. George's Palace. The heroic the temperament is unobstructed and full of self-confidence, just like a Valkyrie who is about to go out. Hey, the audience is stunned. This Valkyrie is Miss Natalia, the fiancée of President Ziwei. Everyone attended the engagement ceremony of the president of Ziwei in Violetberg, but how did Miss Natalie appear? St. George's Palace? This is the stunt you said. Natalia crossed Sufi and clung to the hand of Ziwei. Can you do this? Natalia only remembers that she was wearing this princess dress in front of Ziwei for a long time, and was also squandered by Charlotte. I didn't expect the finished product to be so perfect and true. Even the white pigeons flying in the sky are just like real. Soon, the little Princess Vivian, played by Meryl, rushed in. She flew directly into her sister's arms, and Ronalna softened it instantly, holding the little princess tightly, full of maternal care. With the performance of the plot, many viewers finally had no time to marvel. Alfred IV was so old and sick that the fire of the soul had dimmed to the extent that it would be extinguished at any time, but he did not decide to come to the air. The great Emperor Ferguson was violent, irritable, the second Emperor Locke is frivolous, the three emperors Alpha innocence, only the great Princess Rosanna is determined, calm, decisive, but the Holy Norman Empire has never had a queen, and even a very rare female leader in human history. In this case, the battle for the throne is getting more and more fierce. The great Emperor Ferguson is finally unable to be self-satisfied in this kind of turmoil, obeying a stupid abundance suggestion. using the alien world to confuse the little Princess Vivian, trying to create a situation where R'hllona is a sister-in-law, eradicating the biggest obstacle to getting on the throne. The little Princess Vivian finally fell in the arms of her sister, Lorona. She was just 12 years old. She was the same age of Flowers, but she died in the best time. Even the youth did not have time to experience it. This scene caused countless people to shed tears, regardless of men and women. Even Natalia himself left 2 lines of tears. She held the Meryl sitting on the other side of her, as if she was afraid of her. Leave yourself in general. Meryl's play is over. She is satisfied with her performance. After all, she is not a professional. Is it just that I am so small in the hearts of West Vigo? I am already 16 years old. Princess R'hllona has changed her mind since then. Her heart has no concern for her family and her scruples. She began to plan a counter-attack against the 3 emperors. The Philippe family knight starred by Christine also appeared at this time. Princess R'hllona is the most close-knit guardian knight. In the end, the decisive Princess Ronaldo stepped on the blood-stained throne with the bodies of 3 brothers, took over the crown from the father who repented of sorrow, and enthroned Alfred V. The scene of the throne was made by Ziwei. The color was dim and suppressed. The carpet was like blood-stained red. The faces of the aristocrats were numb and depressed, and they had the deepest respect for the horrible queen. At this point, the entire phantom has been played for 25 minutes, but no one in the audience, they are all attracted by this novel phantom, attracted by the wonderful story in the world of love. At this time, the painting style suddenly changed. In the Tower of the Thousand Laws in the mountains of Abis, the most talented wizard of the millennium made the title legend and became the 6th law of the Orient world. In fact, every student in Violet has studied the history of Orient in the apprenticeship, and has a total of 14 large and heavy books, each of which has a large record for each legendary caster, creating a new school. The title of the legendary master is even more inconspicuous, and they write their legendary chapters. However, there are very detailed records from the 1st law to the 7th law, but there is only a very brief introduction to the 6th law. This is where many people are curious but have no answer. Unexpectedly, I found the answer in this world-famous love of President Ziwei. The young man who is full of enthusiasm is actually the 6th favorite, and the president of Ziwei personally performed the fallen genius. The plot of the 1,000 Laws in the plot is still very real. With the style of 200 years ago, the Bow scholar Anthony is even more vivid. If Christine knew that Ziwei did not leave the Violet during this time, she would really. I thought that Ziwei invited Anthony to participate in this drama. In fact, this is the real stunt part. At the time of the establishment of the Arcane Review Committee, when the Arcane Master's Morning Star Tower was unveiled, Ziwei and the Bow scholar Anthony met, and his body and posture were almost zero. Recorded down. As long as it is a person that Ziwei has seen with his own eyes, zero can be simulated, and it is not weak from appearance, tone, and momentum. This technique was applied not only to Anthony, but also to the tyrannical master and the painful queen who appeared later. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 662. The present in front of everyone is a young, handsome, and arrogant. His pioneering talent and thinking is far more than the contemporaries, so his speed of progress has been soaring. Lewin. 11. Wiawa used the illusion of Newton, the physicist of the classic mechanics of the world, to add a story of Willis Snap under the apple tree to the apple in the book. This subtle little story eventually led to the interest of the great masters of magic at the time of the discovery of gravity and field-related fields, which is also an opportunity for him to create a force school. From the appearance of Wheelie Stir to his pioneering school, it took only 5 minutes in the Phantom, but in 5 minutes, through the exquisite art processing, all the views of Viest were unobstructed. In the end, Vilgest was in the Tower of the 1,000 Laws. Under the testimony of the teachers and classmates, The argument expounded the basic principles of the position school and made the sixth legendary magician of the Orient world. In front of everyone, Wheelister has displayed a real 9-ring legendary spell of the force field school, the world reversal. Within the realm of the Weilstein spell, the heavens and the earth are completely turned over, all the gravity is straight up to the sky, and countless people and objects fall directly above the sky under the action of anti-gravity. The whole field it became a place dominated by Verist. The news of this spell is real, and it is also recorded in the secret information sent by the bow scholar Anthony. With the current strength of Zyway and the mastery of the force field spell, it is obviously impossible to reproduce this spell. However, it is not so difficult to reproduce this spell in the Phantom. The existence of the stunt and the technical support of Zero make all the illusions possible in the Phantom. The effect of this legendary spell has aroused the audience's surprise. Against the young Vil East also gave birth to enough admiration and fanatical love. The young Sixth Law did not establish its own tower in the Thousand Law Tower and chose the students to grow the position school, but the guide Anthony bid farewell, leaving the Tower of the Thousand Laws to travel to the mainland of Orient, and his first stop, the Holy Norman Empire, located below Mount Abies, was chosen. After a coincidence of the love story, the newly enshrined Alfred V and the newly promoted Sixth Law met in this way. The young and brave hearts attracted each other and eventually fell in love. With the help of Vilgest, the war machine of the Holy Norman Empire expanded rapidly, and various magical crafts and war mechanics appeared one after another, especially when it represented the peak of the magic craft, the birth of the magical guide ship that could be transmitted through the plane. It is the most powerful peak of the Holy Norman Empire. 12 magical armored ships are still the great powers of the entire Holy Norman Empire, but who knows that these 12 magical armored ships belong to the great creation of Vilist, far beyond any legend. Magic creation. 200 years have passed, but the entire Holy Norman Empire has never been launched by any new magical armored ship. The glory of the past is already the peak and is reserved for future generations. Next is the glorious chapter of the scene, the expedition of the multifaceted plane, the expedition to the new continent opposite the endless sea. The Holy Norman Empire became the most powerful empire of the entire continent of Orient. The glory of the glory even surpassed the glory of the time the church is in full swing. However, at this time, the female number 2, the biggest villain, was born by Charlotte, the Painful Queen. Although imitating the real Pain Queen in the momentum, clothing, and various props, any audience can see that the glamorous queen is played by Charlotte, and her performance is also very exciting. From the beginning, some of the bold and hot seduce of Vilgest, some of the plots even made the young audience squirming and eager to move. However, this part of the plot is very short. Charlotte under the veil is looming, perfect to show his hot body and wonderful style, but carefully echoed, but not even a single exposure, compared with the real Pain Queen, has been innocent too much. The scene of the exciting love and hate entanglement was staged, and the conflict between the powerful Holy Norman Empire and the endless abyss was increasingly unavoidable. When the world's desolation was staged in the 130th minute, the final Star Wars decisive battle was also the final outbreak of the whole drama. The sixth Favil East stood at the pinnacle of the fleet, confronting the wise Varaz, the tyrannical lord and the queen of pain, the 3 abyss devils and the millions of demons. The enemy is like a swarm of ants, and it can't be cut off like a tidal wave. However, in order to protect the lover and the imperial fleet, the fearless Wildest eventually sacrificed himself and repelled the demon army, the painful queen who will be hated by love. Msha smashed and sent Her Majesty the Queen and the last fleet of the Empire back to the mainland of Orient. After the tragic sacrifice, it was the final scene of the whole drama. The Queen of the hospital bed looked at the imperial power and recalled the bright spring and the sprouting heart when she met her lover, and finally passed away. The entire Phantom for a total of 150 minutes, when the show finally ended, the curtain began to appear in a row of staff gold font: Director, Sylvie Frost; Screenwriter, Sylvie Frost; Natalia Bonaparte; Charlotte, Christine Phillips. The audience is still immersed in the 2.5-hour spiritual feast. The first time in the history of the Orient continent, the Phantom of the Opera uses its incomparable reel scene, magnificent background, ups and downs and wonderful scripts. The extraordinary performance created a real classic. The silence in the Colosseum lasted for about 3 minutes until all the casters were over, and the curtain lost all the luster and turned into the original gray. At this moment, thunderous applause sounded loudly. Under the influence of a few people, all of them stood up and applauded. The applause was like a rushing Danube. There was an excitement on everyone's face, without exception. Ziwei and Natalia and others had to personally board the center of the stage and accept everyone's applause. Many people still reluctantly want to watch the second time, the third time, or even the 100th. Until Ziwei promised to add this desire of love to the Western Ways spell list in the near future, Violet students will be able to enjoy it freely, and will use the production of Phantom of the Shadows as a semester. After the new course was added to the Violet Academy, everyone was finally satisfied. At this time, the weather was already very late. Under the repeated demands of Ziwei, everyone was reluctant to leave the Colosseum, and the enthusiasm was still being discussed along the way. "It's a thrilling performance, a perfect artistic expression," Sufi exclaimed sincerely. "Once the phantoms spread, I think traditional drama will lose most of the audience. This is the charm of the magic industry. It will also be the future of the arcane, so that the results of magic and arcane really benefit the general public. The vitality of the arcane will be more powerful, and the future will be more extensive." Ziwei walked out of the theater, looked at the distant east. "There is only the last magic time from the birthday of the sun. I think the celebration of this year's celebration of the Church of the Glorious Lord will not be very lively. The annual birthday of the sun is not only the most important festival for all humans on the mainland of the Orient, but also the moment when the Glorious Lord Church holds a grand celebration. Even if it is a small church in a country town, there will be a pastor to preside over the church. The Lord's believers gathered to carry out a religious ceremony similar to a celebration. The departure of the Lord of Glory is already destined, and we must learn to accept it," Sophie sighed. However, at this moment, the grandeur of the Holy City Vatican is completely out of the expectation of Ziwei. The whole Holy City is brightly lit and the lights are shining. All kinds of magic lights will shine through the whole city like a white, at a very distant distance. Can see. The high-rise church of St. Peter's Cathedral gathered at the top of the Church of the Glorious Lord. On this Christmas Eve, the last Mass of the Holy Calendar in 1787 was carried out. Pope Benton XVIII took a solemn sacred crown and wore a golden red robe. He held the Holy Cross in his left hand and the Revelation of Light in his right hand. Both the Holy Cross and the Apocalypse of Light are the most sacred and important sacred objects of the Church of the Glorious Lord. Even if you do not consider the religious significance and commemorative value, the effect of itself is far more powerful than that of the Orient continent. The legendary magical artifacts are comparable to the legendary artifacts that only the gods can use. The will of the Lord is on the earth, as in the heavens. The believers pray for prayer and ask the Lord's guidance. The voice of Benton's 18th echoes throughout St. Peter's Basilica, and everyone is crouching on the ground, using the most devout pray for the Lord of Glory. In this sacred occasion of near resonance, the energy of light also jumps to the peak. In this near sea-like bright energy, any demon or vampire will burn to the ashes in an instant, even if the soul cannot escape. The soul of Benton's 18th slowly left the body at this critical moment. He had to complete a long-term plan, communicate personally with the billionaires of Glorious, and asked for a very important fate of the Church of the Glorious Lord. Matters. The soul of Benton XVIII looks directly at the statue of the Glorious Lord in the center of the cathedral. This ancient stone statue has been passed down for nearly 2,000 years. It was the first time that the Son of came to the world of Orient and carved it by hand. The world's first and oldest statue of the Glorious Lord. The benevolent Lord, the great Lord, the believer asks for your guidance. Benton's steadfast conviction, with the conviction of the prayers of the people in the church, fully communicated that this one has been completely occupied by the brilliance and began to change. Glittering statue. In the next moment, a huge change suddenly occurred. The light rushed out from the inside of the stone statue as if it broke through the shackles. The stone broke through the light and eventually condensed into a glorious image of pure glory. Praise my Lord, you are one, you are 10,000, the universe has all the kind of Father, all the people's devout daggers, their eyes began to radiate the enthusiasm of the light, the glorious Lord finally began to respond to his followers. It must be known that for the past 300 years, the Lord of Glory has responded even to the prayers of His Majesty the Pope. This is also the case with the Church of the Glorious Lord. Even an ordinary little pastor may communicate directly with the great Lord. The situation is much different. My believers, I feel your piety and courage. In the expectation of countless people, the Lord of Glory finally spoke, and He did not speak. All of them heard the teachings of the Lord in their hearts. This is the Holy Scriptures. The situation recorded in the main communication is exactly the same. The final Mass of the glorious Lord's Church almost consumed the glory of the Lord's divine power. If you can't wait for the glorious Lord's response, I am afraid that it will only become a group of fat sheep. The Lord of Mercy, are you leaving the continent of Orient? Pope Benton XVIII was the first to respond. He asked with a trembling voice. Yes, I will leave, the end of the original contract has arrived. The reply of the glorious Lord undoubtedly dispelled the last hope of those who still have illusions in their hearts. Kindness Lord, we are faithful to you, what should we do if you leave? Benton's 18th continued to ask. You are all devout believers. I can take away 10 of you and leave here to go to my kingdom. The glory of the Lord of Light shines on the 10 people in the cathedral, including Pope Benton. 18th himself, there are several other believers. What makes people awkward is that only 2 of the cardinals consisting of 9 people shine with holy white light, and the Knights Templar is no exception. Instead, several middle-level white robes seem to be more determined. I got the appreciation of the Lord. The soul of Benton's 18th returned to his place. He stood up in a trembling voice, and a disappointing mood flashed through his eyes. The other 9 people who were cared for by the glorious Lord were delighted. Others had insights and hatreds. Our Lord, if you leave, the glory of Orient will be dim, and the tens of millions of my followers will lose the glory of the Lord and the protection of the shepherds. How can we be at home? Benton's words obviously it means that he will not let go of the entire glorious Lord's church and choose to enter the Lord's kingdom. Olin has its own light, the image of the Lord of Glory responded. Benton 18 was once again disappointed. He knew that the light pointed out by the Lord was the Lord of the morning, but the young man of the morning, Eulichia, had set up the morning sect, and had already parted ways with the true church of the glorious Lord. My Lord, since you are already destined to leave, ask the Lord to do the final help for our abandoned believers, to illuminate our future path. Benton 18's originally curved body suddenly became straight, he shouting loudly, the apocalypse of light in the right hand is shining, and the holy cross of the left hand is directly pressed on the light group of the glorious Lord. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 663. The believers who saw the scene were shocked, and this is simply blasphemy. This is what the Pope is, even the loyalty of the glory of the Lord who admits, is he crazy? Benton 18 is certainly not crazy. At this moment, he clearly knows what he is going to do. The statue of the glorious Lord has existed for 2,000 years and was placed in St. Peter's Basilica to receive the most pious prayers among the people. It contains the radiant energy of deep and extreme, and the limit of mortal is the sacred object of the true level. After the glory of the Lord has left, whether it is the holy cross in his left hand or the shining revelation in the right hand, after losing the supply of the power of the glorious Lord, it will inevitably slowly dim and lose its original effect, but if this is to be the radiance of the icon in the icon can not only provide the long-lasting radiance of the Holy Cross and the glorious revelation, but also break through the limits of the sacred domain with this key sacred object, and achieve the glorious of the Orient world, accepting the legacy left by the glory of the Lord, the light power of the world. Benton 18 does not want to choose to follow the Lord of glory to leave the world of Orient to enter his kingdom of God, and not to surrender to the Lord of the morning. He will be the Redeemer of the Church of the glorious Lord, and he will be the next light God. In the blink of an eye, the glorious Lord learned the thoughts of the believer. He did not hinder him. Instead, he pushed the boat and poured all the radiant power of the icon into the Holy Cross and the glorious revelation, as well as Pope Benton 8. In vivo. Whether it is the Cardinal of the Red Card, or the Paladin of the Knights Templar, or the Giant of the Inquisition, witness the brilliance of the perfection of the icon, the two sacred objects of the Church and the Pope itself. His body was suspended high in the air, dazzling to the extreme light shining throughout St. Peter's Cathedral, and even breaking through the shadow of the building itself, forming a light column that reaches the sky, even if it is far away from Zyway on the island of Violet. Clearly saw this shining pillar. What happened? There is the direction of the Holy City Vatican, Sophie's flower eclipse, faintly as if to realize something. Not only the Violet Island, but the entire southern part of the Orient Grand 6. As long as the person who has not yet fallen asleep, as long as he raises his head and looks up at the sky, he can now see the shining pillar that goes straight to the sky. Almost all the people with the heart are awakened. Waiting for the next change, many believers of the glorious Lord fell to the ground and prayed piously. The eyebrows of Pope Benton 18 are under the infusion of radiant divine power. The hidden mark is shining brighter, and the sacred mark is faintly changing. It seems to be trying to absorb all the brilliance. The pillar of glory of the sky finally dimmed, but the sacred mark of Pope Benton's eyebrows has changed into a shining star. He finally opened his eyes are shining, not like a mortal. The moment of heavy pressure makes all people bow their heads. Pope Benton 18 finally achieved his goal. With the help of glorious power, he completed the breakthrough from the sanctuary to the demigod and began to raise the banner of the glorious Lord in this coming turbulent era. Led the Church of the glorious Lord to move on. The original Church of the glorious Lord has long been turbulent, and many people have changed their minds. They secretly support the young Lord of the Morning, Elysia, and there are many other people who have other minds, even though the Franconian plane is the last retreat and guarantee. However, these people who once dominated the fate of Orient's Big Six will never allow themselves to end up on the stage of the Orient. Now, the Pope has reached the most ideal state, successfully promoted from the sanctuary to the semi-god, and those who are thoughtful are now crouching in the ground, toward the Pope Benton 8. In fact, Benton's own feelings are even more wonderful. Knowing this moment, he knows how powerful the glory of his faith is. The so-called billions of worlds are not vain, but far from ordinary gods. The great existence of blasphemy, so he changed the original declaration and said to the people in front of him, "The Lord of glory is about to leave, but the great Lord will bless me with the last glory before leaving, and will be guarded by me. The glory and order of Orient, in the future we will jointly join the kingdom of the Lord and enjoy the glory of eternal life." Everyone is once again embarrassed. At this moment, Benton 18 is like the son of Peter. He is the spokesperson of the glorious Lord Inulant. No one will have any dissent. When all the power in the icon of the Lord of Glory was exhausted, when Benton's 18th was about to announce the next strategy, the earth suddenly violently trembled. "The sun has risen," someone exclaimed. Obviously it was late at night. Why did the sun rise again in an uncharacteristic way? Benton's face was stunned. He held the Holy Cross and the glorious revelation, which had just been radiantly filled, and flew out of St. Peter's Cathedral, looking at the rising golden sun. Zyway and Sophie stood on the beach, quietly watching the golden sun rising in front of them, dyed the entire sea into gold, behind them, Natalia, Charlotte, Meryl and others. They have also stepped out of their rooms. At the same time, the entire Orient world, east to the Orkwangting on the Hulun Prairie, west to the most sophisticated peninsula of Spania, south to the sinful city of Sicily, north to the snowy mountains of the mountains. The sleeping people have been awakened, and the billions of humans and other intelligent life are stunned to see the golden sun rising in the middle of the night, which violates the laws of nature. Under the gaze of hundreds of millions of eyes, the sun finally rose to the highest peak, the highest point of the sky. Then, radiant, like the golden rain descended from the sky, the rain of the holy light also landed in the entire Orient Grand Six, spilled on every piece of land, scattered on everyone's body. Praise my Lord. You are one, you are 10,000, you are the Supreme Master. Almost all the glory of the devout believers fell down on the ground, this late night reappearing miracle, in addition to the great billions of glory. Lord, who else can do it? This is the miracle of the Lord of glory. He has not abandoned his people. We will finally be redeemed and eventually ascend to heaven. The devout old pastor was full of tears, and his long-standing persistence was finally disappointing. Did not abandon them. The ancestor, the Lord of glory is still so shining. Is it always a lie about the end of the original contract? In St. George's Palace, Alfred IX asked carefully about his ancestor, the great empire creator. Road. Keeping it, after a moment of silence, Alfred I, who is already the guardian spirit, responded. At the same time, both the demon monarchs of the infinite abyss and the undead kings of the bones of the earth, the high-level parliamentary high-level, or the king of O'Brien, the king of Rivendell, everyone is watching the sky. The golden sun, waiting for a moment to determine the future destiny of the Orient Grand Six is coming. However, all the glory is like a dream bubble, just in the eyes of the public. The sun in the sky has lost most of its glory, and a mighty horrible power has left in an instant, from the multidimensional plane where the Orient world is located. Go away. At the end of the original contract, the billionaires of glory fulfilled the contract and truly left the world of Orient. Almost all the big men made the final judgment in an instant, and everything was still running according to the predetermined trajectory. The Dark Parliament was in a big heart, and the biggest obstacle to the world dominated by the darkness has disappeared without a trace. The golden sun shining above the sky, like the faded old photos, suddenly lost all the brilliance, turned into a dim yellow, and even appeared a large piece of gray, like a gap. Holocaust is dying, Zai Wei said with emotion that the world of Orient has officially entered the turbulent era. The gloom and turmoil came, and with the departure of the glorious Lord, the entire Orient world lost its balance for 2,000 years, and the unbalanced changes brought enormous disasters to the world. The earth under the feet began to tremble, as if the movement of the Big Six plate accumulated over 10,000 years was instantaneously released. The violent tremor of the earth caused an earthquake of very high energy level in an instant, and it was raging throughout the Orient. This horrible natural disaster exploded instantly. Fortunately, the last golden sun before the glory of the Lord's departure awakened most of the sleeping people, so that they could escape the disaster and escape the house that was about to collapse. Around the island of Violet, the tremors of the earth formed a terror of terror, and the waves of sky-high waves were generated in an instant, and nature began to show its power. The figure of Zai Wei disappeared in an instant and was directly transmitted to the top of the Violet Tower. The cluster of energy was turned on at the first time, and the element pool powered by the arcane crystal mine was launched quickly, if Zai Wei no longer made it shortly. Strain, the tsunami of Gold Sea horror is bound to destroy the foundations that Violet and West Victoria have accumulated for a long time. However, Zai Wei had already prepared for it. When he communicated with the Morning Lord, Ulixia, he also reminded each other. At this moment, he was not flustered, as always. God. The terror of terror is about to come. Violet is too small, nowhere to hide, a magic apprentice from Corsica, a fisherman's family, shouted in horror, the horror in the distance. The ultimate tsunami will inevitably slam and destroy all obstacles that dare to block it. This is the real Tianwei, and manpower can't stop it. The ground beneath the feet is still tremble, and the rocks that support the entire Violet Island on the surface of the sea are being shaken violently. If you continue to sit down, Violet Island will fall into the seafloor and the Violet Academy will be completely destroyed. Such a terrible natural disaster has already awakened everyone. They have gathered together in groups of 3 and 5, and there are also separate hiding. Some people, such as the president of the student, Esmeralda, organize the students around them to stabilize the order of the campus. They are so small in the face of nature's power, there is no resistance at all, and the end of the Violet seems to have come. When many people fell into despair, the clear and bright scream suddenly sounded in the high sky, and they looked up and saw only a horrible big bird like a blue cloud, hovering high above the island of Violet. The drums of the clouds are swaying, and the hurricane of the wind is used to counter the hurricane of nature. They looked down the cyan giant bird, between the tall violet towers in the distance, a figure in a black robe standing there, holding a magical magic shining with powerful magical energy. It is the president of the Violet Academy, the chairman of the Arcane Review Committee, the great magic master 11 Wei. It is the president of Ziwei, he is fighting the hurricane. It is the president of Ziwei who is guarding us. If you are saved, President Ziwei will certainly protect us. At about the same time, countless people seem to have grasped the last life-saving straw, with the backbone. The formal magician and the backbone began to come out of the hiding corner, helping professors and lecturers maintain order, and concentrated all the students in the empty and flat large square, which is the safest party in the disaster. The green light of the pale green in Ziwei's eyes gradually dimmed, almost instantly changed into a blue watercolor. The next moment, a foot is tens of meters high, huge and lovely water element floats out of thin air before the Violet Tower, and then driven by Ziwei, they went into the sea, reversing the waves and stopping the waves from falling on the island. After Peng Peng and Shui Shi, it is naturally a phoenix. Along with the scorn of the sorghum straight into the sky, the phoenix with the fierce fire flies straight from the sky, roasting the earth with a warm flame, and re-raising the already cold and almost frozen temperature to a warm and comfortable level. Finally, it is also the most crucial step. The last one of the 4 basic elements, the earthly true yak, is condensing the true type. At this moment, the 4 elements of the true spirit, each of them is a combination of 2 master elements of the inscriptions of Ziwei, representing the highest level and accomplishment in the field of elements at this moment, and the difficulty of casting is far before any time. More importantly, the 2 master inscriptions representing the elements of the earth, he has just completed the design and concept, but it is still the first time to display. If there is any mistake, the true shape of the earth true yak will not be able to condense or have a pole. Big defects, it will be very difficult to guard Violet Island. However, even Sophie, the music master of the semi-god Strong, can only use his power to protect the residents of Violetburg and Nanhai Town from the hurricane, but this is only a short-term response. Effectively solve the problem. The inscriptions of each of the master's elements in the full-scale performance of Ziwei are similar to the legendary 9-ring legends cast by a legendary caster, although his magic is vast, even though he has the help of Zero and etheric balls. However, after successively displaying the inscriptions of 6 masters and combining the true styles of Kunpeng, Shui Shi, and Phoenix, his magic has reached a very embarrassing point. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 664. Super Hurricane, Smashing the Waves. If you turn these natural anger into the wizard's spell effect, there is no doubt in the scope of the legendary 9-ring magic. Perhaps some master-level spells can match the hurricanes and waves in front of the spells, but the scope of action is no doubt less than the storm around Violet. However, neither the hurricane nor the waves are the root of this natural disaster. The reason for all the earthquakes is that there is a big earthquake. If Zai can successfully display the inscriptions of the two masters of the earth and combine them into the true spirit of the earth, then you can suppress the smoothing of violets. A large earthquake near the island trembled, guarding the entire island and college. If the spell fails, the surviving mana of Zai will have no chance of a second attempt. It will only clean up the mess and try to keep the people alive. Violet Island is bound to cease to exist and collapse in the super catastrophe. In the middle, whether it is the Violet Academy, the Violet Castle or the Plane Transmission Center, all will be destroyed, and everything must start from the beginning. At this moment when the future fate of tens of thousands of people will be decided, Zai is not panicked. He is as stable as ever. He has encountered various crises in the past 30 years of Xingai roaming. He has already been like a street stepping in life and death. Ordinary. The inscriptions of the two masters of the earth elements have already been carved into a clear image in the mind of Zai. With zero assistance, he will never have handshakes or mistakes. The sky is cracking, the spell model of the first master's inscription on the earth's inscription is being presented in the heart of the lake. The magic in the etheric heart lake is like a star, rising into the air and gathering into the spell model. The reason why this spell has become a savage tyrant's name is because the effect of this spell is beyond the power of the legendary spells of the legendary spellcaster. The earth has started a new round of vibrations. This vibration is not homologous. Yang suspended hundreds of residents of Nanhai town in the air using floating spells. Each of them had a white bubble around them, protected from hurricanes and heavy rains. Yang's gaze quickly turned to the violet tower in the distance. This wave of volatility came from his own tutor, President Zai. The earth's vibrations under the feet are getting stronger and stronger, and countless people are dizzy and unable to stand firm. However, the energy of the earth elements guided by Zai began to show its great power. Just like detonating a super bomb at the foot, the fierce land fission is rapidly spreading out from the center of Violet Island. The rock is flying up and the waves are blowing. At the same time, the sky above the sky spreads its wings, and the water in the sea water manipulating the waves, almost instantly, formed a comprehensive counter-attack situation. The hurricanes, tsunami, and tremors controlled by Zai also appeared at the same time, forming a stalemate with the power of nature. The entire Violet Island is like a storm. All the disasters seem to be resolved in an instant. The earth under the feet is not in the lineup. There is no hurricane in the sky. The waves in the sky disappear and disappear. It seems that the disaster is over. Many people began to cheer for joy, celebrate this great victory, and be proud of the powerful magic of President Zai. However, whether it is Sufi, the master of music, or Natalia, Yang, Meryl, etc., all know that this is a short-lived piece. How can one person compete with nature? Once the magic in Zai is exhausted, then the violet is still invincible. The whole person of Zai has been transformed into an etheric element, and his spirit is extended to a dozen kilometers away. This is the front line of Zai spells and the power of nature. The two are completely different. The tremors of the earthquake are violently conflicting here, and the sea floor below the sea is undergoing dramatic changes. Some places have been torn into huge trenches, and in some places they have risen to rocks and land and become new islands. Zai is fully exerting his own 9-ring spells on the edge of the legendary field, and now he is only a final step away from his legendary field. Zai squeezed the last magic in the heart of the lake and began to display the last inscription of the master's meta-element. It is also the 8th story 9-ring legendary spell, the Earth Order. Regardless of any elemental field of geothermal feng shui, the two master elemental inscriptions composed by Zai always have a representative destruction. One represents the creation of a destruction, and a breeding opportunity. The Earth Order is a ground element that can be determined. Order, the spell that has already calmed down the already wild elements of the earth, and the upper limit of this spell is immeasurable. This is the last and most difficult inscription of a master order element. The spell model in Zai Zinhu Lake has been complicated to the extreme. Any magician under the master level can't see and understand the memory, just the note of the spell. More than 1,200, in addition to Zaiwei with zero help, only those true legendary casters and even legends can cast such a spell. This is the real 9-ring legendary spell. Before the situation in Violet Island was already in jeopardy, there was a crisis of overturning in almost a moment. Even though Zaiwei used the land order at that time, there was not enough time to redetermine the restoration, but now, the sky is cracking. The fierce collision with the help of the other three elements of the true spirit of the front against the natural Tianwei, gave Zaiwei a fleeting casting time. But this is enough. Zaiwei sang the inscription of the element of the earth order. At this moment, he seems to have completely become the master of the earth elements, controlling the movement of all the earth elements in the nearby area, and maximizing their order. Calm down. A huge illusion appeared above the Violet Tower, and countless violets who were watching the West Victoria clearly saw this scene. Their eyes were filled with the trust of the president of Zaiwei and the powerful magic that was enough to change the land. Envy and admiration witnessed the display of legendary spells. I don't know how many people made a great wish in this moment. I want to be a powerful magician like President Zaiwei. The huge phantom finally formed, and it was all yellowish in color. It condensed into a seemingly ordinary yellow giant bull. It licked its own neck and licked its heels. The two huge horns were sharp and mighty. Dimensions not only successfully cast the Earth Order spells, but also summoned the combination of two Earth element inscriptions to evoke the true external manifestation of the Earth's true spirit. At this point, through the frost and cold prison, water of vitality, two water masters inscriptions on the water elements, burning the flames, the fire of the sun, two masters of fire elements inscriptions, eternal storm, the inspiration of the two masters of the elements of the wind and the inscriptions of the two masters of the earth, and the inscription of the two elements of the earth, finally summoned the four elements of the true spirits to the world of the Orient. World and external manifestation, which means the West, the modern element of the Victorian school of magic, has completed the most important layer of deduction, and the upper limit of the system has also been upgraded from the master of magic to the legendary caster. And Zaiwei himself, in the moment of completing the inscriptions of the 8 masters, successfully promoted the legendary caster, and the name justified into the legendary field. In the moment of the legendary achievement, the cage that had been smashed by the soul of Zaiwei for a long time collapsed in an instant, and collapsed. The soul of Zaiwei was like a prisoner who had just regained freedom. He rushed to the next destination with joy and comfort, and the soul level reappeared. Jump to a level. If the soul level of ordinary people is in the first sequence, the soul level of Zaiwei has jumped to the 8th sequence, the 9th sequence from the sanctuary, the 10th sequence of the demigod, and the 11th sequence of the gods are no longer so far away. The promotion of the soul level has made Zaiwei's manipulation of magic once again a step. The understanding of the elemental source has also become clearer from the fog, which is very helpful for his future exploration of the deep mysteries of the elements. The current spellcasting and combat ability of Zaiwei is far beyond the legendary caster, and even to the extent of the University of Copenhagen's Heimerdean, Blue Dragon Lannister, Venice United Magic School President Cesare and others. The earthly real ox has finally rushed out to the front of the conflict. As soon as the road passes, the earth is once again flattened. The island of Violin, which was already on the verge of collapse, has finally become solid again, just like the real continent. Same. The footsteps of the earthly true oxen did not stop. He rushed all the way to the distance, and the islands that were created by the collision of the naturally ruptured spells and the natural powers were strengthened and determined, and the tribute to the center of Violet Island would be honored. All the large earthquakes within 100 kilometers have subsided. The update has not been written yet, is being written, and is replaced after completion. Super Hurricane, smashing the waves. If you turn these natural anger into the wizard's spell effect, there is no doubt in the scope of the legendary 9-ring magic. Perhaps some master-level spells can match the hurricanes and waves in front of the spells, but the scope of action is no doubt less than the storm around Violet. However, neither the hurricane nor the waves are the root of this natural disaster. The reason for all the earthquakes is that there is a big earthquake. If Zai can successfully display the inscriptions of the two masters of the earth and combine them into the true spirit of the earth, then you can suppress the smoothing of violets. A large earthquake near the island trembled, guarding the entire island and college. If the spell fails, the surviving mana of Zai will have no chance of a second attempt. It will only clean up the mess and try to keep the people alive. Violet Island is bound to cease to exist and collapse in this super catastrophe. In the middle, whether it is the Violet Academy, the Violet Castle or the Plane Transmission Center, all will be destroyed, and everything must start from the beginning. At this moment when the future fate of tens of thousands of people will be decided, Zai is not panicked. He is as stable as ever. He has encountered various crises in the past 30 years of Xingai roaming. He has already been like a street stepping in life and death. Ordinary. The inscriptions of the two masters of the earth elements have already been carved into a clear image in the mind of Zai. With zero assistance, he will never have handshakes or mistakes. The sky is cracking, the spell model of the first master's inscription on the earth's inscription is being presented in the heart of the lake. The magic in the etheric heart lake is like a star, rising into the air and gathering into the spell model. The reason why this spell has become a savage tyrant's name is because the effect of this spell is beyond the power of the legendary spells of the legendary spellcaster. The earth has started a new round of vibrations. This vibration is not homologous. Yang suspended hundreds of residents of Nanhai town in the air using floating spells. Each of them had a white bubble around them. Protected from hurricanes and heavy rains, Yang's gaze quickly turned to the distant Violet Tower. This wave is from his own tutor, President Zai. The earth's vibrations under the feet are getting stronger and stronger, and countless people are dizzy and unable to stand firm. However, the energy of the earth elements guided by Zai began to show its great power. Just like detonating a super bomb at the foot, the fierce land fission is rapidly spreading out from the center of Violet Island. The rock is flying up and the waves are blowing. At the same time, the sky above the sky spreads its wings, and the water in the sea water manipulating the waves, almost instantly, formed a comprehensive counter-attack situation. The hurricanes, tsunami, and tremors controlled by Zai also appeared at the same time, forming a stalemate with the power of nature. The entire Violet Island is like a storm. All the disasters seem to be resolved in an instant. The earth under the feet is not in the lineup. There is no hurricane in the sky. The waves in the sky disappear and disappear. It seems that the disaster is over. Many people began to cheer for joy, celebrate this great victory, and be proud of the powerful magic of President Zai. However, whether it is Sufi, the master of music, or Natalia, Yang, Meryl, etc., all know that this is a short-lived piece. How can one person compete with nature? Once the magic in Zai is exhausted, then the violet is still invincible. The whole person of Zai has been transformed into an etheric element, and his spirit is extended to a dozen kilometers away. This is the front line of Zai's spells and the power of nature. The two are completely different. The tremors of the earthquake are violently conflicting here, and the sea floor below the sea is undergoing dramatic changes. Some places have been torn into huge trenches, and in some places they have risen to rocks and land and become new islands. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 665. Perhaps this is really going to fall in front of this young and overexposed Civ-master, and his relationship with him must start to change slowly from simple friends. So try to start making changes. Sophie made a tough decision, but after making this decision, she was a lot easier, and the shoulder burden seemed to disappear in an instant. Zai finally stopped casting spells. Whether it was the sky and the phoenix in the sky or the water and the ox in the distant sea, The four elements of the true spirit disappeared, and the calmness was over. Everything was over. Freed from this wild and unparalleled disaster, most of the violets gathered in the school square, and some fanatics looked at everything that happened around them. At this time, Ziwei undoubtedly became the only backbone of all people. He saved everyone and saved the violet. For the future, he will surely lead everyone to move on. Ziwei used the transmission spell to appear in front of everyone. The magic in his heart lake that has been promoted to the legendary field is automatically restored to an almost overflowing state. The ethereal element lake is undergoing subtle changes and evolving toward a more powerful level. It will be a process that lasts for a while. The whole person of Ziwei looks refreshed, and the body seems to be wearing a shining spotlight. For his age that is too young, the worry that seems to be unreliable is all gone. Everyone quietly looks at Ziwei, waiting for his next speech. Violet students and citizens, the glorious Lord has just left the world of Orient, and this catastrophe that swept through the whole of Orient was just the result. Even though I have calmed the catastrophe near Violet, but the whole world there will be earth-shaking changes. The good times of peace and development will be memories of the past. With the departure of the glorious Lord, the sun above us has become a catastrophe. The dark forces that have been suppressed by the Church of the glorious Lord for thousands of years, the devil in the endless abyss, the undead in the bones, the dark elves in the dark areas, and other powerful beings from the multifaceted plane, will launch an offensive against the entire Orient world. The war is about to come to this world, the turbulent age already coming. But students, please don't worry, this is not the end of the world, but the beginning of a new round of change. The transformation from magic to arcane will greatly expand the number of magicians, which will inevitably change the future of the entire Oran, the pattern of the special world. Although the flower of arcane has just begun to bloom, it will inevitably open up the whole world in the near future. And you will become the creator of history, the pioneer of the era. In this great era, the outstanding ones of you will be forever engraved in the long history and be admired by future generations. Ziwei's speech was not long, but he quickly mobilized everyone's emotions and rescued them from the panic of rushing attacks. Almost everyone was fighting high spirits. After all, just now, President Ziwei personally gave it to everyone. Demonstrate how much a powerful magician or arcane master can do, one person's strength against Tianwei and victory in battle. This is an unforgettable memory, and what a brilliant hero. Now, 6 new islands have emerged from the sea, guarding the violets. The birth of the 6 islands has benefited from the magical confrontation between me and nature. Therefore, Violet naturally has sovereignty over these 6 islands, and we will soon begin to the development and construction of the 6 islands. Violet will serve as a new force on the stage of the Orient continent. The catastrophe caused by the departure of the glorious Lord will not last long. Until the end of the disaster, all Violets, the college's lecturers and students, your family will be free to migrate to Violet, and the college will provide you with enough convenience. Under my protection, it will be a quiet, peaceful, and vibrant place. Paradise. The small land of the original Violet Island could not satisfy the expansion of the whole force, but now, with 6 islands ranging from 50 square kilometers to 600 square kilometers, the development of Violets will usher in a new stage of takeoff. Many of the students of the Violet Academy students are still stranded in their hometowns. Therefore, Ziwei must relieve the worries of all students, so that Violet as a complete force can better preserve its core strength. It's a great leader, a powerful magician, a pioneer of arcane, a legend of the future, a great Archean. Many of the magician and apprentice lecturers and students have admired the West. They are also full of confidence in the future under the leadership of President Ziwei. If Violet is now a prosperous future, the rest of the continent is almost a sad scene of post-disaster relief. The catastrophic catastrophe that swept through the whole of the Orient world lasted for a whole day. Except for a handful of places where the strongest people were seated, Most countries and regions shivered in front of this terrible natural disaster. Countless people died and lost their lives. It is even bigger than incredible. Houses collapsed, roads were cut off, food shortages, drinking water pollution, and even more terrible were robberies and riots. Even in the big cities under the state machine rule, there have been many violent incidents, not to mention those remote places. In just one day, the number of deaths in the entire continent of Orient has exceeded 1 million, and the number of disabled people is countless. If it is only a natural disaster, perhaps humans can still recover from calm in the long time, but the turbulent age has already on the advent, the Dark Council has already blown the horn of the attack. The cataclysm caused by the departure of the glorious Lord has the most profound influence on the main material plane. On the contrary, it does not cause much harm to other multiplanes. The smote plane has almost no loss except for a slight vibration. It can be said that it is brilliant. The departure of the Lord indirectly sent a surprise to the Dark Council. Under the dark canopy of the Rhine Union, it has become the ocean of the dead. The original lush black forest red land of the green grass, now has become a land of withered yellow, scattered with a strong atmosphere of death. One after another huge undead warfare building and mechanical glory and glory show the sharp, elite army of the dead. It is more ready to go, with the instructions of the only king who is waiting for their undead king bads. The face of the undead king, Bards, has long since had no human skin and muscles. His skin is grayish, but his pupils are shining with gray color, and the whole body is wearing huge iron steel armor. Dressed in a cloak of death shadow, it looks pretentious, and the wind of the king is coming. Around him is a large group of undead masters, powerful necrones, at least the masters of the masters, and the powers of the legendary field are not uncommon. It can be said that the elite of the entire city of the dead are gathered here. The Lord of Glory has already left, and the destiny of darkness will eventually dominate the entire world of Orient. Now, launch the general attack on Orient, and use the undead natural disasters that swept the whole world to start the horror of the Dark Council and the capital of the dead. The undead King Bades raised his huge horror blade in his hand, a horrible legendary sword, with a strong sense of death, as if the legendary death should have weapons. Hey, the mountains and the wild, the endless army of the dead, the necromancer, the flesh and blood, the sacral cavalry, the Bohai Sea, all the dead eyes are shining with the grey soul of the fire, responding to the call from the undead king. Dark sky, open, the undead king Bades inserted the long sword in his hand into the earth under his feet. The huge magical array that had already been ready to start began to work. The dark sky in the sky was like an open umbrella, and the part of the surrounding and the horizon was slowly rising, constantly stretching outwards, trying to cover the entire Rhine Union under the rule of the dark sky. With the departure of the Lord of Glory, the only catastrophe of the catastrophe has been very weak against the dark sky, which makes the expansion of the dark sky almost at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the offensive from the undead King Bades has started. At the same time, in the far east, on the Hullen Prairie, the Orc King, the Baladi from the Tiger, is rallying the Orcs' main ethical command of the Orc, and holds a swearing-in meeting. Baladi is a brave and deceitful king. 13 years ago, he defeated his 12 brothers and sisters and boarded the Orc throne. 5 brothers died and 4 sisters became his women. The remaining 3 brothers were ashamed and became the puppets manipulated in his hands. Baladi himself is also a strong leader of the legendary peak. Although it seems to be a generation less than the first king of the Orcs, the power is already very strong. However, Baladi is not satisfied, his ambition is so big that it is unimaginable, he can't stand his kingdom can only be trapped in the small Hullen Prairie, can only be discouraged by the rich and prosperous Ulant continent. The once Orc Empire was the most powerful country in the world of Orient. Even the elves with the shelter of Lady Silvermoon could only tremble under the arms of the Orcs, and humans were only small and weak slaves. But now, the number of legendary powerhouses in the entire human race has already exceeded 100. The 7 legendary magicians and the presence of more than a dozen sacred powerhouses have made the arrogant Baladi not dare to act rashly and restore the glory of the once Orc Empire. It seems to have become a luxury that is impossible to achieve. But now, everything is different. The glorious Lord, the evil spirit that gave human power, has finally gone. The weak humans have lost their greatest reliance. At the same time, the demon of the infinite abyss brings a cooperative alliance, giving the orcs more power. The power of Baladi felt this powerful force. He even broke through the limits of the legendary peak and stepped into the real sanctuary. He has surpassed all the orc kings for 200 years. Now he is full of confidence, and the orc empire will be his hands reappeared brilliantly. Baladi's first chest came out of the gold account. His straight body was more than 5 meters high, his teeth were sharp, his claws were sharp, his muscles exploded, and his momentum was full. Beyond the gold account, leaders of important races of traditional orcs such as lions, leopards, wolves, cows, and foxes have gathered here, waiting for the appearance of Baladi. My compatriots, for 2,000 years, the orcs have been trapped in the small Hullen grassland. Our empire has already collapsed. We have been enduring human oppression. This painful fate seems to be completely invisible. Baladi's tiger eyes swept across all the faces of the commanders. Some of them were excited, some were numb, some were thoughtful, but now, everything is different. The glory of the human beings has left, weak human beings will surely become our prey. Now, when we re-raise the banner of the Orc Empire, revenge on humanity, and restore the moments that the Empire once had. Unlike the young and simple Orc warriors, these tribes are almost all old fritters. They are not very interested in Baladi's speech. The leader of the Turan's leader, Sarah Blood, stands out. Wangshan. The peace between orcs and humans has been maintained for more than 800 years. The Hullen prairie is so lush, the water plants are so sweet, and our orcs can continue to grow and develop in this world, far from being poor to the extent that human beings are no longer humans 2,000 years ago. Although they have lost the refuge of the glorious Lord, they still have powerful magicians, even surpassing the former. Teacher elves, whether they are sacred, legendary, or the number of masters is far more than the orcs, we are not human opponents. Stupid bloodhoof, human beings have done the leaders of Orient for 2,000 years. Do you think their enemies are only us orcs? Bearer raised his voice. We are not alone, but on the contrary, I am already an orc empire. Found the most powerful ally. Baladi gently applauded, and a man with a cloak appeared beside him. Then, the man disarmed, and his body suddenly expanded rapidly, reaching a height of more than 10 meters. The power of terror spread on him, and the magic fire was violently roasting on him. He was so horrible and powerful that he trembled countless people. The horror demon Nodok, the fox patriarch Saurus recognized the demon. He is one of the 7 demon kings of the endless abyss, the horrible war messenger Nodok. If the tyrannical Lord Razgarda is the strongest of the 7 devils, then the horror demon Nodok is the devil who is best at spreading fear and making everyone fear. He is also a warrior. The pioneer of the village. What shocks Saurus is that the horror demon Nodok appeared in front of him is not the summoned projection, but the real body, which means that the beast master Baladi has reached a substantive cooperation with the endless abyss, and the orcs are inevitable. The chariot that was rolled up in the endless abyss. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 666. The orcs, your ancestors used to be the rulers of half the world, but now you can only be trapped in this small piece of grassland music. You have been a slave to human beings, but have begun to conquer the multifaceted plane. Try to turn the whole world into their pockets. This will continue to develop, and sooner or later there will be a day when you will become human slaves and playthings, the horror demon Nazg screamed. there is a commotion in the audience. This is also the biggest worry of many orcs with insights. The development of human beings is too fast, and the orcs have stagnated for thousands of years. In order to form a common alliance against humanity, I represent the infinite abyss and sent you a generous gift. The powerful magic crystal, which has been strengthened in the bottom of the endless abyss for more than 300 years, each one there is a powerful force. The horror demon Nodik waved a large hand, and a large piece of green magic crystal shines in front of everyone. Inject the power of magic crystal into you, you will gain a powerful amount like never before. This power will make you invincible. Bamol, come, Bharati shouted to his eldest son, the brave little tiger. Bamur, the head of the tiger's head, listened to the call of his father and came to the beasts. The eyes of the horror demon Nodik stared at him for a moment, and a huge magic crystal floated in front of him. Swallow, you will get the power out there automatically. Bummer did not say anything. The magic crystal that grabbed this green oil swallowed the belly. Under the watchful eyes of almost all orc nobles in Wangting, his body changed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The green magical pattern quickly emerged, like the extended vines. His eyes began to shine with the green magical fire, and the muscles broke out. A wild power was generated in his body. This change made Bummer clench his hands in madness. His sudden punch hit the ground under his feet. The horrible vibration was quickly transmitted to all the people. The earth was torn, and a huge crack appeared at the foot. This change is so rapid that many people have not reacted, knowing that everything has returned to calm, the smoke has dissipated, and the orc nobles who have gathered around the cracks have taken a deep breath. This crack is far from bottom, which is far away. Far beyond the original power of Bamul. Bummer's chest was undulating, his face was full of excitement and joy. As the father said, this is a powerful gift. He was originally an orc warrior who just entered the master level, but now he owns it. The power to compete with the legend. Accept this gift, the rise of the orcs will come. The beast master Baladi's tiger eyes looked around at all the orc nobles under his feet, forcing them to use the magic crystal to strengthen themselves. No, the glory of the orc tradition can never be humiliated. I only accept the strength of my own efforts. Baladi, you have embarked on the evil path. Who knows what bad thoughts in these abyss devils secretly? I never listened. I said that they will help anyone for no reason. On the contrary, they have destroyed countless races and planes. At this moment, the soldier from the lions, Lalda, stood up. He had a mighty beard and had a powerful force. Even in the orc meeting of the orc 5 years ago, he defeated himself in the wrestling match. The beast master of the beast, Baladi, is known as the first warrior among the orcs. He is also a legendary warrior. Lalda's words also confirmed the worries of many orc aristocrats. Who knows what kind of minds these devils have, what are the drawbacks of these magic crystals? Lald, don't hold your orc first warrior and feel self-satisfied. I haven't used all my strength all the time. Now, it's time for you to see how powerful I am. Baladi disdain looked at Lard, or from the beginning he expected Laldi's to stand up, and Baladi jumped off the platform and went to Lard. All orc aristocrats have stepped back and left the open space of a gladiator to two people. Respecting the strong has always been the tradition of the orcs. Baladi, I am not afraid of you and your magic energy. Lard did not hesitate to take up the whole body, like a lion, rushed to the opposite of Baladi. However, Baladi still stood in the same position with his arms folded, just as Lard was about to approach him. The original pattern on his forehead suddenly burst into a faint golden and green intertwining glory, and even began. Reappears beyond the skin. St. Mark, the fox patriarch Saurus was once again shocked. After hundreds of years, the orcs finally gave birth to a sanctuary. The original fierce Lalda suddenly felt a huge depression and pain after approaching Bharati for 5 meters. The body was originally filled with the power of near explosion. It seems to have disappeared in an instant, and his pace of assault is slow. Down, the momentum is greatly reduced. This is the power of the field that the Beastmaster Bardi condenses after the promotion of the sanctuary. Within the scope of the field, it greatly suppresses the power of others and reduces their courage and fighting spirit. Baladi's arms muscles skyrocketed, and almost instantly, he jumped up quickly, flew to Lalda, grabbed his neck, and suppressed all the remaining forces of Lard, and put him raising up. Lard's feet and tail left the ground. Lalda was tightened in the throat, he became red, using all the explosive skills but still cannot break free. Baladi's hands are far better than the steel, without any shake. I witnessed the performance of the orc first warrior in the hands of the Beastmaster Baladi as a kitten, and all the orcs were silent. Baladi replaced Lalda with one hand and turned him around. A pair of tiger eyes, and each orc aristocrat looked at it again. This left the weak Lalda on the ground. Don't waste time, is up, the orc empire will surely reproduce its glory in my hands. Follow the order of the king. A number of orc nobles came forward and swallowed the magical crystals donated by the horror demon Razg. They used the power of magic power to strengthen themselves. Their strength soared and they rose by a large margin. Order. At the end of the day, only the fox patriarch Saurus was left. He was an old fox and the most powerful shaman of the orc, and he believed in the ancient ancestor. Saurus twitched out of the crowd. Wang, I am already dying, I am afraid I can't accept this powerful magic. As a shaman, my duty is to communicate the ancestors and the spirit of the elements, even if there is no magic. I don't think I will drag my legs. Baladi also maintained the necessary respect for the spiritual leader shaman, who had been 1,000 years old. He nodded lightly and motioned that Saurus could strengthen himself without the magic crystal. The orc nobles who swallowed the magic crystals felt the powerful power of the new skyrocketing. It seemed to restore the powerful courage of the ancestors. They responded to the command of the Beastmaster Baladi and would convene all the tribes and rush out of Hulun. The Prairie, launching a general attack on the humanity of the Orient world. This will also be the vanguard of the rise of the Orc Empire for a full 1,800 years. As the largest city in the southeast of the Orient world, Kingstown is also the last shining place of the light of the Orient civilization. As the most oriental port of the Golden Sea, as the hub connecting the two continents, it has always been the most a big city with a reputation. The cataclysm one day ago caused a violent shock inside the town of Junction, and the houses collapsed, but the buildings were basically slums. The real functional buildings collapsed the ancient walls of 700 years ago. In general, the problem is not big. There is no strong country to rule here. Kingsburg itself is a city-state and the most powerful and appealing of all the city-states in southeastern Europe. In these 200 years, Kingstown has a strong the guardian, that is, the great master from the mysterious mainland of China, brings the mystery of the monk's professional and chi to the flow of Orient. A beautiful mountain outside of Junshiveo is the place where Yungziaozong was founded by Lu Yunzao. It can be said that almost all the most powerful monks in the whole world of Orient have practiced here and accepted the flow. Master's personal guidance from Yungziao. At the highest point of Yunzong Zone, the clouds linger in the bamboo forest like a fairyland. The great master is wearing a black exercise suit and carrying his hands on the mountain, looking at the east. He is very old, must be white, not tall, looks like a very ordinary old man, but with a wonderful harmony with nature. The Lord of God is out of position, the heavens and the earth have changed greatly, and the Shenzhou enchantment laid by the dragon is still in peace. Lu Yun said, if you stop, this life may not be able to return home, and you will eventually be buried in this cloud mountain. Since the Lord when I leave, the chaos will follow, and the strength of one person will protect the Yungziao mountain, but I will not be able to protect the fortress. When I look for the heroes of the Orient, I can't get through this world. Robbery. No one would have thought that this great monk of the monk who was famous in the mainland of Orient, had already given birth to his hometown. Unfortunately, for thousands of years, only a few Shenzhou people could leave by chance. Shenzhou, but no one can return to Shenzhou through the enchantment again. The Thousand Law Tower, the magical Holy Land, is safe and sound in the cataclysm. Even without the title of 2 legends and more than a dozen legendary casters, the magical protection array of the Thousand Laws Tower is enough to fight this kind of natural disaster. The departure of the glorious Lord, the Holocaust remnant and the subsequent cataclysm are also greatly shocking to the magician of the Thousand Law Tower, and the Seventh Law de Dura and the ABI's Law Council President Beau Scholar Anthony also appeared again under the first law of Tolaifat's Tower. The owner has been conducting various magic experiments recently. He is completely intoxicated. If you are not the 2 of you, he will never interrupt the experiment, said the housekeeper Eric Didela, and Anthony looked at it and thought about it. The first law that appears in the Purple Tower is still filled with the powerful magic that is pure to the extreme. It is just a little bit of mana dust that is scattered, and it is enough to display a 7-ring spell of master class. Obviously, Tolaifat has just emerged from the source of magic. His spirit is excited and exhausted. My 2 old friends, you are really diligent. Have you been 3 months since the last time? Tolaifat, the glory of the Lord has left the world. The Dark Council will launch a general attack. According to the report of the cold Will Kelsed, the dark sky over the Rhine Union has opened and continued to expand. Ludwig, the Greek ruling party, has convened the entire army of the whole army, and will confront the undead kings in the front and the bones. Anthony speaks quickly. Tolaifat, do we want to join the battle? Where is the Tower of the Thousand Law, Step? Although the front of the Emperor Didela did not speak, she also looked at Turafat and waited for his reply. However, Tolaifat waved his hand gently. It seemed that everything was not important. He slowly walked. The truth I have seen is far more profound than you. The departure of the glorious Lord is not an accident, but the status quo is an accident. This accident certainly happened to another on the mainland of Orient. I think you understand. I don't know much about the lady, but I think her trouble is very big. Can get rid of it, no one can decide. So the current dark turmoil is not enough. Although I dismiss the gods are not as simple as those thoughts of the gods. The situation is very complicated, and the Tower of the Thousand Laws is still. Don't worry too much about it. How is the future? Everything is still chaotic. Anthony and Dixie silently absorbed the meaning of Tolaifat's words. Obviously, the First Law Lord knew more insights and secrets than they knew. Don't forget to continue to pursue and explore the mysteries of magic. Magic is the power closest to the origin of the universe. Our future is very bright. Tolaifat patted his hands gently. Okay. Okay, let's throw away all the troubles and worries. If I am there, the Tower of the Thousand Laws will not fall, and everything is in control. Then don't bother you. Lord Turafat Dila and Anthony chose to leave. In any case, this time, Tarafat answered the 2 questions positively and gave the answers. No longer worry and be confused. Next, the Tower of Thousand Laws will also implement the policy of supporting all countries and forces of humanity, but it will never be shirtless. The charge is on the front line. The Dark Council is not the most powerful and final enemy. The Tower of the Thousand Laws must preserve its power. The cataclysm of the glorious Lord has caused a super hurricane and tsunami on the Golden Sea. Zai Wei has guarded the entire Violet and officially promoted to the legendary caster, Dixie said with a smile to Anthony. The earthquake was not terrible. The tsunami and hurricane caused by the earthquake were even more horrible. Anthony said with emotion, the legend of 18 years old? It is really another Wildest. No, he is even more mature than Wheelie Stir. I have been building my own school and spreading my thoughts. I think he will soon be promoted to the next title. What about you, my scholar? Did Eula suddenly stopped? You have entered the legendary field for 500 years. Trained a full 16 legendary casters, and a 6th law. Always I am very curious, Why are you still not promoted to the title? I am old, I have not found my own path and direction. Anthony shook his head. The road ahead is difficult. How can you see the fog? Is Zaiwei and his arcane system have very strong potential? Maybe in the future on the road of Arcane, I will make a breakthrough. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 667. The earth under the feet is still full of rich chaos. It will cause great harm to the body for ordinary people. I really can't imagine how the president of Zaiwei was confronting with the power of terror. Fraser, who is floating, feels that the elemental crystal ball in his hand is smoothing the elements that are scattered around the island. This is the new faculty mission of Zaiwei through the Western Ways spell list to reward the arcane point. It is open to the magician. They will use the elemental crystal ball issued by the college to calm the island because of the violent collision, and several the elements caused by the legendary spells are chaotic and turbulent. If this problem is not solved, ordinary people will not be able to board the island and develop. It is only a small trouble for Zaiwei, but for the students of Violet, it is an opportunity for them to deepen their understanding of the elements. Zaiwei has released this rewarding task. Almost all the Violet students who are qualified to take this task have responded. 6 new islands born of legendary spells and cataclysm violent collisions are also very mysterious to them. Worth exploring. The spells played by President Zaiwei are all 9-ring legendary spells. His power has already exceeded the worldly imagination. Very delicate creations, and such a large number should be the standard of the legendary mysterious magic factory. Product. Esmeralda looked at the elemental crystal ball in her hand. She has injected a lot of chaotic and active elements into it. The whole crystal ball presents a colorful flowing haze, which is very magnificent. There is always a feeling that we are creating a new world, and it is changing with each passing day. Udayu has made a huge earth element, and the earth after the elements have been blended has been hardened and smoothed. The planning of the 6 islands has been freshly released, and it is located in the north. The island will be the largest civilian residential area, commercial center, and food-producing area in the future Violet territory. The other 5 islands will be built with specialized research institutes of different magic schools and new mage towers. Yes, Violet's new magic master Maurice is about to own a mage tower of his own. President Zaiwei fully supports and provides him with most of the Master Tower technology and resources. The Master Tower has great appeal to every magician. It will be your own home, laboratory, library, and research holy land, equivalent to your own kingdom. Even if you are just beginning to meditate on a magic apprentice who has just mastered the first 0-ring spell, you will dream of owning a mage tower of your own. Yang, Charlotte, and Meryl became the main leaders of the 6 islands. They were in a busy state, but their lives were very fulfilling. And 11 Wei is in the face of the music master Sophie, a very important conversation. Zaiwei, what do you think about beliefs and gods? Will you seek a suitable priesthood in the future and embark on the road of sacredness? Sophie became a close friend almost when she first met Zaiwei. But they never talked about these major issues involving the road and future choices. After all, friendship is a personal relationship. Both Sophie and Zaiwei have their own powers. Once the private affairs and public affairs are mixed, it will inevitably affect the long-term friendship. But now, Sophie took the initiative to find Zaiwei and raised this question. Zaiwei knew what it meant, so his answer was very cautious and obviously it was well thought out. I personally have no prejudice against faith. Most human beings need a belief in order to have their own direction and goals. Life seems to have relied on it. Uland has only seen the 2 gods of Silver Moon and the Glorious Lord so far. Oh, to be honest, they are doing well. Zaiwei paused for a moment. Although I am full of curiosity and exploration about the mystery of the gods, I chose the road of the Arcanist. Although the road ahead is rough, it may not be able to walk out of an immortal road different from the gods. Zaiwei, who has been promoted to the legendary field and is very promising to be the next legendary magician, clearly has the qualification to talk to Sophie about these topics. I saw the violet, here is alive and well, and the future is huge. In the turbulent years of the future, it is likely to become a land of paradise and order. Ziwei, can I spread my faith here and form a bard will? Sophie looked at Ziwei quietly. She seemed to have some difficulty in speaking, but after reading it, she looked very calm. Obviously this was something she had considered for a long time. This request apparently surprised Ziwei. So what about Pai Li? You have been running a 7-year-old network. I have a great name in the Arab kingdom from Parana to the whole of the French kingdom, but it is the territory of the Golden Lion family after all, and the younger lady of the morning, Eulasia, is far stronger than me. Sophie Firm said, although I have been seeking the priesthood of music, I know almost nothing about war and killing. In the future, if I want to climb the throne, I must rely on the help of others. I don't know if you can extend it? Helping hands help me seal my in the future. This is almost the same as Cheng Cheng. Although Ziwei has always appreciated Sophie, she can't think of her as a demigod anyway. She would be so optimistic about herself who just promoted her legend. He took a deep breath and looked straight into the Soviet Union. Philippine rose-like eyes, you have made a decision. Yes, this is my choice. I joined my musicians association and the Bard professional system to join the Violet for your arcane ideas. I hope you can allow me. Spreading faith inside the territory of the Violet, my Bard and I will be integrated into the Violet, no longer separate from each other. Sophie is like a rose, and she has already put all her hands in the hands of the coming era. The chips were voted for the chosen person, and that is Ziwei. This means that Sophie firmly believes that Ziwei can not only achieve the title legend, but also achieve the immortal level of immortality in the future era of the gods, and help her to board the music god. Your trust and attention made me very moved. Ziwei stood up and extended his right hand to Sophie. In the territory of Violet, your faith will be free to spread. Self below, no matter who pays you, the faith is acceptable, and the Arcanist will go hand in hand with the Bard to create a bright future. Sophie also happily stood up and stretched out the white jade hand, and tightly held together with Ziwei. The belief in music can be said to be harmless and elegant. It is a kind of enjoyment that human beings pursue after a long time of survival. Ziwei firmly believes that in the territory of Violet, arcane will inevitably be an eternal trend. And I myself will do my best to help you ignite the fire in the future and become the star of the stars. 11 Wei gently smashed a sly in front of Sophie. Sophie and her forces did not join the Violet Alliance as the Morning Monk Eulasia, but joined the Violet system directly as an affiliated force. This relationship is no doubt further. Although Violet is a force centered on the Arcans, it does not mean that Violet only accepts arcane masters. In the future, your line of destiny will be intertwined. I will stand behind you and fully support the ideal realization of Ziwei. Sophie seems to be a lot of fun and happy, and the burden on her seems to have been completely transferred to the man in front of him. To be continued.